Extreme wealth and extreme poverty have grown simultaneously for the first time in the last 25 years. That's according to Oxfam. The charity's report, Survival of the Richest, is being presented at the World Economic Forum in Davos. It shows that around 830 million people, in other words, almost 1 in every 10, are facing hunger and starvation. But since 2020, $42 trillion worth of global wealth has been created. Nearly 2/3 of that has gone to the richest 1% of the world population. The remaining third was shared by the 99% at the bottom. The total wealth of the billionaires worldwide has increased by an average of $2.7 billion per day. Now, Charlotte Becker is the Advocacy and Campaign Director for Oxfam here in Germany. Welcome, Charlotte. Charlotte, tell us, how did we get here? How is it that the rich are getting richer and the poor are increasing in number?
Yeah, thank you. I think most important is that billionaires' fortunes have not increased because they are now smarter or working harder. Workers are working harder for less pay and in worse conditions. And that is because the economic system is rigged this way. There are multiple drivers for the vast inequality and rise in extreme poverty we can witness. First, when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, there was already a deeply unequal world with public services that have been stripped. These services largely benefit poorer people and in particular women and girls. Second, the super rich were able to recover much faster from the initial shock of the pandemic back in March 2020. And right now, at least 1.7 billion workers live in countries where inflation is outpacing wages. Hundreds of millions of people are unable to afford the cost of living. And third, we witness a collapse of the taxation of the super rich, with only 4 cents in every dollar of tax revenue is from wealth taxes. And we need economies that work for everyone and not the privileged few.
Now, you have called for a systematic wealth tax. You at Oxfam, I mean, how does that look like?
Well, a wealth tax for the richest corporations and individuals is key to reduce inequality. And there are multiple taxes that can be applied here. For example, windfall tax on excessive profits, then a systematic wealth tax that can be implemented over the years. So these are really important building blocks for a fairer taxation of the richest, closing loopholes also for corporations and profit shifting of these corporations. And then what's really important is that the revenues from these taxes are also invested in public services like healthcare or education. And one last thing here that I think is really important, tax cuts for the richest, as we have seen in the past, are tax cuts for men because they are the majority of the rich. Investments in public services, in turn, benefit women and girls as they are the more likely to work in these sectors and rely on these services more.
Okay, so important to tax the men. I'm going to remember that. So you've timed the release of this report for the start of the World Economic Forum. Now, seeing that this is the gathering of the global elite, how receptive do you think they are to messages of wealth and windfall taxes?
Yeah, for a few years now, inequality has made it onto the agenda of the World Economic Forum. But the question is, what are politicians doing about that? Not necessarily the wealthy, but really politicians, because it is their political decisions that they have to take here. And what are they doing about the broken tax system? What are they doing about gender inequality? What are they doing about soaring wealth and poverty? And are they willing to not only talk about it, but go ahead with bold decisions that benefit the 99% rather than the 1% at the top? We have seen billionaires also calling for higher taxation because they also find it utterly unfair that they are paying less than ordinary people who have a market stall or their secretaries. So I think there is an openness, but really it's politicians that have to take the decisions here.
Thank you very much. Charlotte Becker of Oxfam Germany there for us.
Thank you.
Now, as we've been saying, the world's elite are convening for the annual World Economic Forum. Besides the politicians and corporate bigwigs, many delegates flock to the Swiss resort town looking to highlight social issues, such as climate and hunger. Manuela Casper-Claridge met some of them.
A short break of fun. The next meeting is starting soon. There, the social entrepreneurs want to talk about inequality, and they want the powerful, especially at Davos, to pay attention.
They are not coming to the ground enough. They're not listening enough. And they need to listen constantly, continuously, because in the last 2 to 3 years, we have faced so many challenges. We've seen COVID. We've seen now the Russia-Ukraine war and the implications of that in the world economy. And every day the poor are suffering. It's the poor who suffer, and I think we need to listen to them more.
This group has come to the World Economic Forum at the invitation of the Schwab Foundation. The social entrepreneurs know what's going on in the world after all. They work with women, young people, the elderly, or the poor.
These people don't have an organized voice. So you may see the macroeconomic news on how the numbers affect the poorest, but when you're there working every day in slums, you can notice that the situation is way worse than we imagine.
These entrepreneurs are not interested in the route to the top, and they are not looking for the fastest way of making lots of money. They want to use their companies to bring about change.
This social entrepreneurship gives people an opportunity to not only get involved in a way that's entrepreneurial, right, like a business, but also generate impact. And I actually think the generations now around the world are thinking about, how can I do something that impacts the world? Not just how can I make money, but how can I do something that changes the world?
Their goals are participation, a fairer distribution of wealth, and more careful handling of natural resources. Aniket Dogar wants more.
So where do you want to be in 10 years?
Back in Davos, and probably in a position of power, and making change and seeing a world which is much better in terms of climate, in terms of peace, in terms of inclusive decisions. Hopefully it's much better than what it is right now. And in 10 years, we have a much younger leadership all across the globe and also at World Economic Forum.
While many of the social entrepreneurs are still getting used to the cold and the wind in Davos, even the snow is energizing them.